Assalamu alaikum. My name is Kadir Abbas. Thanks everyone for joining us today. CAIR-Kansas and CAIR-National are here to announce the filing of a letter with the Department of Justice seeking an investigation of a establishment called Frontier Justice, a gun range, for violating Rania Barakat's right as an American citizen, as a Muslim woman, to enter that establishment on the same terms as others. This is a serious violation of federal law, and we have every expectation that the Department of Justice will investigate. For an overview about what exactly happens, I'm going to pass it off to Rania. Rania, can you tell us what happened at Frontier Justice?
Yes, alaikum. My name is Rania Barakat, and this incident took place on New Year's Day, January 1st of 2020, and it happened at a gun range here in Kansas City, Missouri, called Frontier Justice. My husband, Obada Bayazid, has actually been here multiple times with his friends and has had no issues, so he wanted to take me there for a fun experience. Instead, we experienced racism and discrimination. And I've been to other gun ranges before in the past, and I have never had any issues like I had with this gun range. So we entered the gun range around 4 p.m. of that day, and it was pretty busy due to New Year's. So we stood in line for about an hour. And during that hour, my husband told me to go and fill out a waiver in the back, just so we don't waste any more time. And I went ahead and did that. And then once I finished the waiver, I stood back in line with him. And after about an hour, we got to the front of the line, and everything was, normal at this point. We handed our IDs to the cashier. And as we were getting ready to pay, she had told me that I have to take my scarf off in order to go into the gun range and shoot. And, at this point, I looked at my husband and, we were kind of both confused and honestly really shocked to hear this. I asked her, why? And she proceeded to tell me that it is part of their dress code policy. And I told her I cannot take off my scarf due to my religion. And she, and I asked her to read me their dress code policy because it was not visible to me. So she went ahead and pulled it up onto her computer and read me hats, caps, bandanas, any other head covering, except for baseball caps facing forward, are to be removed. I asked her again why. And she did not know what to respond. So she brought over her range manager, Danielle, to speak with us. And Danielle came over and told us that it is part of their dress code policy for safety issues. I then, told her what is unsafe about my scarf. And she told me that the gun particles, which is the hot brass that comes from the gun, would then come back and burn me. Basically kind of shoot back and burn my scarf. And, I've told her I've been to other gun ranges before and I have never had this issue. And she told me that this is not, other gun ranges. This is their gun range and this is their policy. And my husband stepped in at that point and said, if anything, her scarf would be a protection for her because it's, not touching her skin. And that majority of people usually wear long sleeves or something to cover their neck. And she, at that point, she became very aggressive, very rude. And she just, said, well, this is our rules and this is our policy. And then she kept hinting like, hey, it's New Year's, it's very busy, kind of in a way for us to, leave. We ended up leaving because we didn't want to waste any more time. Clearly, they're not going to let us shoot, and I just didn't want to waste any more time. So my husband and I ended up leaving. Once the day was over, I went ahead and on their reviews on Google, I started reading all the reviews, and I realized that majority of the reviews are, Muslim women who have also been discriminated against. And a lot of them are actually some of my friends and some of the people that I personally know. And I started, looking into more details and reading every review, and realized that they have been using different excuses for other Muslim women. One excuse was that it hides a person's identity, and that is in fact discrimination, because you can clearly see my face, and you have my ID, so there is nothing that is going to change my identity. Nothing's covering my face or anything like that. So yes, this isn't discrimination. I've encountered racism before, but it was never to the point where someone had told me to remove my scarf in order to enter a facility, or do any type of activity like this. It was very shocking to both my husband and I, and we were never expecting anything like this. I hear lots of stories of lots of Muslims, especially us Muslim women, facing discrimination, and I always feel for them. But to have this happen to me personally was just very sad and frustrating, and I would never want anyone to go through what I went through. It saddens me that this is America. This is the norm, and we must change that. This is unacceptable. We cannot allow racism to win. We need to come together to fight for this, to fight for peace and acceptance. And I am here today to be that voice for many who, are afraid to speak out. I'm here to fight for equality. And whoever is watching this, I hope you are, with us to help end discrimination and racism. I will not allow anyone or anything to come between my hijab nor my religion.
Yes.
Thank you.
And there are, Rania, there are laws that were hard fought for and hard won that prevent places of public accommodation, places like gun ranges that invite the public in to use their facilities, that prohibit companies from denying service to people because of their race, or in this case because of their religion. Zaina Galawanji is an attorney with CAIR-National. Zaina, can you give us a little bit of the legal context here?
Yeah. So here, Frontier Justice's actions violated Title II of the Civil Rights Act. And that law basically says that discrimination is prohibited. You cannot discriminate because of race, color, religion, or national origin in certain places of public accommodation, so hotels, restaurants, and places of entertainment. We have this law because historically Black Americans were excluded from or segregated in restaurants, motels, theaters, and other public places. And this law prevents public places from sending us back to a time in history where certain groups of people are treated as lesser, and prohibits public places from discrimination and segregation. The law demands equal access to public accommodations regardless of your race, color, religion, and national origin. So Frontier Justice here has disregarded and violated these civil rights protections by actively excluding Muslim women who wear the hijab from their business. They made clear to Rania, when they excluded her family from the gun range and when they excluded other Muslim women, that Muslim women are not welcome in their establishment. Frontier Justice, they say they value faith, family, and freedom. That appears to be their motto, but however, their actions tell us that they have shown otherwise. And so we've asked the Department of Justice to investigate Frontier Justice for civil rights violations. We're demanding that Frontier Justice accommodate Muslim women who wear the hijab and implement policies that specifically allow for the hijab and other religious head coverings to be worn in the facility.
Thank you, Zaina. And, obviously this is what happened to Rania is a manifestation of anti-Muslim sentiment generally. It's all too common, unfortunately, for Muslim women to be discriminated against because they wear hijab, for Muslim men and women to be discriminated against because they want to pray at work, or in this case, because they want to use a place of public accommodation and adhere to their faith at the same time. Musa, can you give us some local context to, situating this incident in the context of other things that are happening in the area? And you're muted, Musa. Can you unmute? Yep, your bottom left. See it? There you go. Yep.
Now I am. Very good. So absolutely, as the local chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, covering the whole state of Kansas and the whole of the Kansas City metro area, including Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. While we definitely appreciate the embracing spirit that our community has embraced, our Kansas community and the Kansas City community has embraced us as a faith group, but we still suffer every now and then from a certain minority people that still exhibit certain Islamophobia and unacceptance of Muslims. And we're concerned in this particular case, when we were contacted by Sister Rania, that we had received a number of reports around the same time from the same facility denying Muslim women the service. And unfortunately, some of them have even gone to that same range before, and they were allowed to get in, but they were denied at that time for some reason. And the concern here is this denial of service is not based on any safety concern that is really legitimate, and it's meant to exclude Muslim women and other Muslims from exercising their rightful rights and legal rights. And we as an organization are not going to tolerate that, and we'll do everything possible to stop it. And we appreciate Sister Rania. Other sisters may not have been willing to come forward or become public with this complaint, but we appreciate Sister Rania for her willingness to come forward and stand up for her rights, and we'll do everything possible to support her. And we call upon all others that have been discriminated against and denied service in a similar way or any other way to contact CAIR-Kansas so we can also embrace their case and see what can we do to make them whole.
Yeah, and just to emphasize, if any Muslim women out there who have been excluded, denied service from Frontier Justice, now's the time to reach out. We know that Rania was not the only one who went through this. We know that there are other Muslim women that went through the same thing. If we all stand together, we can ensure that Frontier Justice does not continue to exclude Muslim women from its facility in violation of federal law. Jazakallah khair for all of you, Zaina, Musa, and Rania for joining us. Thank you all for joining us, our stream, and we'll be happy to share updates as this proceeds. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.